Carson Hocevar just got a very public defense from a team owner who isn't even his own. And the reason why is turning some heads in the NASCAR world. And hey, real quick, if you are a true NASCAR fan like me, go ahead and drop a like and subscribe to the channel. NASCAR Nation News is just getting started. We are pushing for our next subscriber milestone, and it's all about real talk from fans who live this sport every week. All right, let's get into it. So let's set the stage here. Carson Hocevar has become one of the biggest names in motorsports over the past year. He's been attending the Met Gala while also making headlines on the track. That's a pretty unusual combination for a NASCAR driver, and it tells you just how much attention he's been pulling from both inside and outside the sport. Now, fans and drivers seem genuinely split on him. Some love the personality, some don't. But here's the thing, he's got one more name in his corner now, and it's a big one. Trackhouse Racing owner Justin Marks. This comes just days after Hocevar flipped the bird to Corey Heim during the Brickyard 400. That's the moment that really kicked things off. And instead of staying quiet on it, Marks actually addressed it directly. He appeared on Speed with Harvick and Buxton, and he offered up a defense of what Hocevar is bringing to the sport. Marks said, quote, "We need big stars. What Carson's doing right now, being this big polarizing personality, is just so good for the sport in my opinion." So Marks isn't just brushing off the controversy. He's actually framing it as a positive for NASCAR as a whole. According to him, having a polarizing figure like Hocevar out there is exactly the kind of thing the sport needs right now. But here's where it gets interesting. And where fans started connecting some dots. Some fans on both Reddit and Facebook pointed out that Marks defending Hocevar feels a bit ironic. Why? Because of what Marks said about his own driver, Ross Chastain, back in 2023. At that time, Chastain was coming under fire for driving aggressively. And after Chastain got publicly ripped by Rick Hendrick, Marks made a very different kind of comment. He said, "There's stuff that has to be cleaned up regarding Chastain." So back then, Marks seemed to acknowledge that Chastain had a tendency to drive aggressively, and he claimed the team wanted to work with him to actually address that behavior. That's a pretty different tone than what we're hearing about Hocevar today. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean Chastain ever changed the way he drives. In fact, he's still widely viewed as one of the more aggressive drivers on the track, especially when it comes to blocking. So whatever cleanup Marks was talking about in 2023, it doesn't seem to have fully stuck. And that's really what makes this moment stand out. It comes off as a bit odd that Trackhouse's own owner is being more publicly supportive of Hocevar right now than he was of his own driver back in 2023. Same owner, two very different reactions to two different drivers showing aggressive or controversial behavior. Now, it's also fair to point out, there might be more pressing matters for Marks and Trackhouse to actually deal with here. Let's talk about that for a second. Trackhouse's three full-time drivers in the Cup Series, that's Ross Chastain, Shane Ben Gisbergen, and Connor Zilisch, are all on expiring contracts in 2027. That's the entire full-time driver lineup with uncertain futures at the same time. And it gets more complicated. Zilisch already seems to be penciled in to replace Alex Bowman at Hendrick Motorsports. Think about that for a second. Trackhouse would be losing a potential generational talent just 2 years after adding him to the team. Meanwhile, given the team's underperformance this season, both Zilisch and Van Gisbergen could also end up heading elsewhere entirely. So Trackhouse isn't just facing one departure question. They're potentially facing 3. On top of all that, it's not like Trackhouse even has a realistic shot at luring Hocevar away from Spire Motorsports anytime soon. So this defense isn't about recruiting him. So while Marks' public comments about Hocevar might raise some good points about where NASCAR is headed as a sport, it's also fair to say he's got some bigger things sitting on his plate at Trackhouse that need his attention. So here's the question I want to leave you with today. Do you think Justin Marks is being genuine about wanting big personalities in NASCAR? Or does this feel like a double standard compared to how he handled things with Ross Chastain back in 2023? Drop your take in the comments below. And if you enjoyed breaking this down with me, make sure you like this video and subscribe to NASCAR Nation News. We'll see you in the next one.